Greetings and welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire! Are you ready to dive back into the world of Golarion, the world of the Pathfinder role-playing game system? I hope you are. I, your host and guide here, Tian Xia and Dracovin, are ready to open up a gate through the universe, through the multiverse, taking us from here, our world, to Golarion once more, where we're going to visit another country in Tian Xia, Xa Hoi. This one's a very safe and easy one, but still, nonetheless, stay close. I don't want you getting lost and stuck there forever. Please do remember to give me a bit of a tip before we leave here with liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, and letting me know what your experience with Xa Hoi is over in the comments of the YouTube side of things, or over here in the Twitch channel. Alright everybody, ready to travel? Take my hand. Xa Hoi awaits. The gate is open. Let's get ready. Rock and roll. We arrived! Xa Hoi. Alright, now if I was going to dive into Xa Hoi and learn more about it, both in its evolution throughout the Pathfinder role-playing game, and maybe perhaps some extra details, what sources would you dive into? Well, there are two main sources to count them. Not one, but two. And these are, of course, the Dragon Empire's Gazetteer. I like that one a lot for looking back at things for first edition, and for second edition, the Tian Xia World Guide. My favorite from the second edition books as of now, for quite a while here. Really great book. Talks a lot about deep dives into these nations. It's been a major help here. Check that one out then too. Where do we start? Well, we can start with the basics of Xa Hoi. That's always a great place to start with. And here's its flag. Its capital is, I'm going to butcher a lot of the names here, so apologize right away. Wanshou. Its government is a draconic monarchy. Yes, dragons rule it. Emperor Pham Duc Quan is the current emperor. So you can find dragons, humans, kobolds, lizardfolk, merfolk, nagaji, and a lot of different people there. Many different religions, from Abadar, General Susum, Irori, Kung Sachi, Lady Nambyo, many more. And it's a place where coffee, talk about it, is probably one of the top things, along with dyes, gems, livestock, lumber, magic items, medicines, ships, spices, cotton. We'll also talk about that one there too. There's a lot of interesting details about this country that make it quite interesting. Now, where do we start? We start by looking at the rise of this nation and looking about its history. A deep history that has arisen for over 6,000 years. Yes, this is a nation that has been independent for over 6,000 years and has seen a rise and fall of many of the great empires in Tian Xia and never has been conquered. The empires rise, they fall, and Xa Hoi, the true dragon kingdom, has stood. It is the only dragon empire able to claim that kind of hyperbole because imperial dragons are literally the people in charge. The current king, the current emperor, is an imperial dragon from a long line of imperial dragons that have ruled the nation. This area of Xa Hoi, which has multiple spellings, basically used to be a collection of warlike kingdoms before its establishment. Under the collective ruin, they banded together and positioned the sovereign dragon, Pham Quan Nguyen, basically promising a horde of loyalty and power for her aid, the treasures of the empire. Xa Hoi swore fealty to the sovereign dragons, and sovereign dragons swore fealty in return. The nation has stood united under the dragon seal since. Presently, Emperor Pham Duc Quan is 13th in this line. The 13th dragon in 6,000 years to rule. That's still an impressive number of dragons. And he has basically had this authority over this area for the last 201 years. A big chunk of his life. Protection, majesty, and stability of the dragon's dynasty has been able to earn, has offered Xa Hoi and has earned Pham Duc Quan and his predecessors the affections of the citizens. Basically, it's been a stable nation for 6,000 years. It has allowed itself to support itself and its neighbors. In the last days of Long Hua, Emperor Quain made great efforts to extend assistance to the successor states, even to the detriment of Xa Hoi, assuring that these directives were in the best interest in the long run, and by non-draconic perspectives. Generosity, fair trade, and healthy respected border over the generation has given Xa Hoi a strong and tempered bond with its neighbor states. It has not bared arms except in minor board disputes with any other state in TNZ to this point. It does have foes. The Clicking Caverns, the Kaiju, the Valshami Jungle, and of course, pirates that originate from Minatai in the waters outside the state. And of course, nowadays, there is growing threat of, well, revolutionary and changes in the way of things. And the balance of Xa Hoi's status quo may change in this newer TNZ. Even the river's smoothest stones can break if struck in the right spot, wrong time. Saying that's important. Very much so. Let's take a look at it. There's Xa Hoi. Stark black mountains jut from the lush jungles down below, decorated by the innumerable rivers that weave through it like jewelry-studded chains, making this the area that has the largest river delta in all of TNZ. Mastery of those rivers is very important to the people here, because trekking through the marshes over the mountains could be dangerous, both because of the terrain and the things living there. Rivers are winding, branching, merging. It's a maze of waterways that cut through the valleys, bushlands, and mountains. Most of the settlements are found along the water, because traveling up and down the water is the way to travel. And of course, down the water, the last path of least resistance. A lot of shafts, though, head down into the Clicking Caverns, from sinkholes to meet the lava flow below. Water or lava, all rivers lead to the coast and flow into the ocean. While the coastline isn't the largest stretch in all of TNZ, it is argued by its people to be one of the most beautiful. Countless estuary coves stud the sheer-faced island, with sheer-facing islands break the waves, making peaceful waters and black sand beaches. Mountains run the country, even out into the coast, jutting up from the water, making small, narrow, towering islands that become more concentrated further inland. With water-bound mountains, the devastating storms along the coast would have wiped out Xa Hoi millennia ago. So yeah, the mountains along the coast basically keep the storms from being just a little less bad. The mountains of the coastal islands trail inland, becoming more concentrated further west until they connect to the Chulin Range. In the east, the sheer black peaks stab up from the ground as scaffolding and zip lines run between trees and vines leading to the Jungle Academy, covering the stone-like peach fields. Further west, the peaks become more tightly clustered. Mountain bases begin to widen out and conjoin, making for less sheer but more intimidating slopes. Deep in the mountain, under the cat caves, runs the old tunnels like rotting wood, threaten to collapse or burst with stuff of nightmares. Some are natural, because of erosion, not shift, or giant burrowing animals. Others are artificially dug by insurrections from the Darkland, the Clicking Caverns. The tangled network runs the axis along the entire breadth of Xa Hoi and its neighbor Nagadu, maybe even to Tang Mai or to Val Shiraj. The Xa Hoian strategist suggests that this Clicking Caverns, as much as it's only threatening these two nations, could threaten more. Some of the tunnels close to the surface have been reclaimed, and have an operating base to try to take over more. Let's talk about the cities in Xa Hoi and some of the other locations. The major city to talk about, of course, is the capital, Nagan Hoa. It's a confluence of two great rivers. The capital is a testament to architecture and engineering. It has the illusion of simply floating above the waters on stilts and suspended bridges. Buildings are narrow, deep, tall, and tightly packed in clusters, networked by canals, bridges, and zip lines, such that the residents can claim they've lived their entire lives without setting foot on soil, and could possibly do so if made enough effort. Locals will even walk barefoot in their whole lives, hallmarking a mark of pride, basically because soiled footwear of visitors. You had to walk through dirt. Other cities of note, which we know the names of, but not as much details about because of the older books, are Ansong, Damian, Hanrach, and Maithian. Maithian being the second largest city in the entire region. Other locations to mention are Fort Hung and Shipswright. Fort Hung, of course, being one of the Clicking Cavern channels that's been taken over. It's basically been restructured, and this used to be the forward base, but as now they've kind of spread the war deeper underground as the battles move. This place is kind of a fallback spot, not as used as much. It's used by now merchants or basically opportunists that are basically adventurers heading deep. Ship's Rights, on the other hand, is a recent development that's been construction of an area for an ocean fleet to challenge the privateers and pirates that are out in the waters. Basically making more deeper water-based ships rather than just the river-oriented sloops they're used to in traditional Xa Hoi. A dozen mountain islands were conjoined with bridges and scaffolding, and this engineering project has converted into one of the largest shipyards in all of Tian Xia. That's Ship's Rights. Let's talk about who's in charge of the nation. And of course, here's our top here. In his human form, Fan Duc Quan, who's 247 years old. And remember, he was 46 when he took the throne. He's led for 201 years. So the crucible of Xa Hoi is our dragons. The official language of the government, Draconic. Official proceedings and documentation is done in Draconic. Though some languages like Tian, Nagaji, and Kang can be popular spoken and used in certain smaller areas, but Draconic is colloquially the big language, and is the major language in the nation. The other languages use less official capacity, but are out. The written laws of Xa Hoi were made by Empress Mugi, the first empress of the country, and are designed to be curt and vague. In Emperor Quan's opinion, and many of his predecessors' opinions, this imprecision was basically to allow more nuanced policy that could be adjusted as needed rather than relying on the precedent and tradition. So that's why the rule of law is kind of curt and vague, because in different eras, it might be needed to be interpreted or used differently. And, First Dragon was smart about this and was like, yeah, we might live long, little guys below us not. So now we have Fan Duc Quan, current emperor, current Draconic monarch. He serves his nation, just as the 12 predecessors did before him. And interesting thing about him, he knows the name of every living Xa Hoian citizen, as did all his predecessors. They know the births, they know the deaths, they know the names. He has an incredible feat, probably only a dragon can do. With his trust, he has court officials that are the authority to mandate matters under his jurisdiction, using their best judgment for fairness. The sovereign dragons are supernatural, but can't rule Xa Hoi alone. Quain isn't enough, so he's a cloister of advisors, bureaucrats, diplomats, lobbyists, generals, admirals, spy masters, master spies, treasurers, guild chairs, tax collectors, and many more that make up the court officials. This massive group of bureaucrats under him that basically can work with him. Each official bearing the seal, down to the smallest village headman and marshal, each selected by the emperor himself. Merits aren't always clear why these people were selected, but the sovereign judgment isn't for the subjects to question. Court propaganda says the emperor can't die, and as such, no emperor has. Each emperor has abdicated, and Fan Duc Quan is the latest to take up the position in a peaceful transition. The ceremony takes place behind closed doors, only attended by a closest of two advisors of the sovereign. This secrecy, along with the fact that no Xa Hoian has seen the draconic form of the sitting sovereign in living memory, and that the successors are completely unknown until the coronation, has made for conspiracy theories. All this stuff like this. Again, they just don't show their dragon form in public. Fan Le Nonc, a sovereign dragon, is Fan Duc Quan's eldest sibling, and is the supreme commander of the military forces, holding the highest rank under the emperor himself. He has a joy for life that can be seen excessive, but he proclaims to be enlightened in his pursuit of this entire thing, and has never let that interfere with his responsibilities or capacity as a commander of the military forces of Xa Hoi. His current quest? To visit every single bar and food purveyor in Xa Hoi. And of course, while not on tour, militarily, he's off doing that. I love that guy. I like his brother a little bit more than I like him. He's just like, I want to go to every restaurant, every bar, I want to try all the food. That's my big thing as a dragon. The former premier and personal confidant of the emperor is Ngo Than Nihan, and is the acting head of the People's Information Order. The Pro is a political party advocating for restructuring Xa Hoi's government, basically a republic ministry, with the Imperial Dragons as the ceremonial head of state that advises the ministers, as opposed to director. The long simmering sentiment is being brought to a head with the hens basically joining as a prominent figure to this group. Their main argument is that sovereign dragons, as good and benevolent leaders as they are, have a very long view in their actions, and basically trading today for tomorrow. Elves, dwarves, and gnomes have long life expectancy in hundreds of years, are kind of dismissive, but humans, orcs, Yusoki, and others have very short lifespans, and who have lived under a single policy spanning generations, and they basically have a little bit more sympathy towards this criticism. Again, like, yeah, the longer lived race, they're a little bit more about it, but yeah, short lived races are like, yeah, there's nothing to say in this, we like that you're here. Be more ceremonial, be advisor, like, lead us in still big directions. You don't have to be directly in charge. Another important group to talk about is the Ode. I'm going to butcher this one because it's very interesting. It has a billion S's. Odyssey. It has 6 S's, 7 S's. A lot of S's. Yeah. Let's hear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 S's. It's a dancing troupe from Nagajor that has playfully named their specialty Ronona across Xa Hoi, Nagajor, and Tangma, and the larger Minata Islands. They have performed for every suited emperor since Xa Hoi's unification. So, again, Nagajor, being another ancient nation, has had this dancing troupe perform for all the emperors and empresses for the last 6,000 years. And for leaders of many other nations for generations. Their exhibitions never to be missed. Their dance is said to make it seem as though the world is spinning and swaying, inebriated from the audiences without serving a single sip. No venue or event is too small for them, who dance for the love of art. And maybe spies for work against foreign power, though, but no evidence of such claims ever been found. They're totally not spies that, infiltrate and stuff like that. Anyway, Lam On Da, a monk who's allegedly immortal since Enlightenment a millennia ago, she claims to have visited heaven, only to find a den of conceit egos, wanton excess, fickle temperaments that view mortals little more than pets to provoke against one another. She's led a growing following that openly speaks against religion and the state that supports it. This group has gathered out a lot of attacks, and has always claimed that the acts are of radical individuals unsanctioned by her or her lieutenants, basically. So they carry out radical acts anti-religion, and they're like, no. Those were radicals. Those weren't us. Radicals. Don't bother. Let's spend a day in here. Now, this is more for, of course, a year, which we'll talk about for a big event, but I like this one for our daily visit. What's up? Or we'll talk about our life in Xa Hoi. Brain broke for a minute there. Let's talk about life in Xa Hoi. So, we'll talk about our day. Our daily day. Here's what's interesting about Xa Hoi. Day doesn't start until just before dusk, and ends at dawn. They are a nocturnal society. They dodge the oppressive heat of the day and the humidity, and finding it to stay safer awake in numbers against the dangers of the dark that has driven them to this nocturnal time for living memory. Colder air, matching sleep schedules, and basically with the most dangerous predators all supplemented by strong coffee culture makes up the night. Country folk start the day in the dark. They have bioluminescent flora and fauna that have cultivated over millennia that allow traveling along major cross-country roads at the dark of night and tending fields and ranches as easy as daylight. Much of the produce will actually have a special glow to them, marking them as special fare throughout the rest of Tian Xia, but salad for locals. Monster farmers, as they're affectionately jabbed, find their work much easier and productive in the dim of the night, treating what once were thought as unnatural beasts the same as any beef or pork stock. Though, due to monstrous potential for sapience, such ranchers are highly regulated to avoid basically questionable stock. Sort of like, yeah, they have more than just normal animals. They have more monster creatures as stock, but they do try to not have highly sapient, intelligent monsters as ranch things. Keep it away from those. Sunrise marks dinner hour and the end of the day. Pastoral takes the cool mornings before retiring to bed. City dwellers have an early start, catching late afternoon and sunset. Cities accept messengers and enchanted communiques from throughout Xa Hoi at the overlap of the respective start and end of the workday. As the city does business more often with visitors and outside organizations, the workdays are short and heavily front-loaded, with the witching hour onward dedicated to simpler, locally focused tasks and personal time. Cities are heavily invested in bioluminescence, like their pastoral counterparts, but have magical lanterns. They have the infrastructure for arcane maintenance. Save for the burning out of a wick, working late, or carousing, few cities folk see sunrise. These stranger hours and abundant to high-quality reserves from the mountains have precipitated a coffee culture of Xa Hoi. They have a strong brew that's slightly sweetened with a touch of cream, cutting the bitterness and blooming the floral notes. Their coffee is such a high quality, is a luxury export. And the big part of this economy, the economy of theirs almost collapsed about 3 generations ago when a virus basically caused a mass die-out of coffee that crashed the trade, but also a lot of Xa Hoi's acuity and moral in the absence. At midnight, so coffee's really big in their culture. They are a coffee culture. At midnight, most people take a short break in the day, about 30 sore minutes to enjoy coffee and a pipe of medicinal herbs. An opportunity to take the evening and have a playful bicker with one another. Retirees will often extend this ritual into the day. Otherwise, they tend to keep 2 hearty meals a night in the early and then twilight. Traditionally, communities will host family meals each evening in the public areas of the village or city where all are welcome to contribute or partake. Allows everyone to gather, share gossip, show off their cooking, accompanied with music, dance, poetry, plays, exhibition, and the like, as folks are willing to offer to their neighbors. Rest assured, these meals don't deter from the restaurants or private home meal patronage, as few will attend every family meal. Restaurants and food stalls are so specific that orders are simply, "I'll have 2, please." Every large celebrated banquet often carried by a dozen restaurateurs working in tandem. Yearly, we have to talk about the seasons then, too. There's hardly a time in a year, save for unexpected catastrophe, where food is in short supply. In the old days, seasonal food was a lot bigger, with river life, jungle fowl, local produce. Today's menu is a luxury comparison, with ranch cattle, fresh produce, regardless of season. Snowless high-wind winters in the valleys bookend the beginning of the end of the year. Spring has high tides, typhoons, cyclones that go into summer. Hummy rains are in fall, and that's when the harvest season begins. Heavy participation throughout the year combines with high temperatures for a very humid climate. Weather's unwelcoming to outsiders, and defense against them is on many occasions. The jungles and marshes. Taxes are collected quarterly, with the changing of the seasons. Court officials rotate provinces every other month on an offset schedule. One group remains to welcome the next and is expected to leave the following month. Officials won't expect a station to repeat in the same province for the next 3 years. Each summer, crews of 12, each dedicated to the monarch of Xa Hoi from the past, race from the most eastern river basin to the westernmost estuary. Crews compete all year long via the Dragon Boat Festival. And this is each summer to have a champion and a prize, a favor from the sitting emperor. Teams push themselves to the physical limit, rowing for days at a time with few breaks as they can stomach. They carefully plot a course, not only optimizing route for distance, current direction, and hazard, but also organizing a chain of supply along the projected route and backup routes if they're smart, providing food, drink, and equipment. In the past, they would have stopped to forage, but the clever team started the practice of outside support, and this became the new standard. The crews broker sponsorship from patrons in exchange for advertisements on uniforms and boats, and even offering prizes to the emperor. Settlements set up festivities along the river so the boats pass by, marking a rolling celebration across the country. The largest celebration taking the beginning, sending off the rowers as the well wishes, and of course at the finish line, congratulating the teams that have survived to meet with the sitting sovereign. A 2-day wake is held in the last days of winter, the big festival, and this is to the lost battles and soldiers of Xa Hoi, the festivals of lost. The first day, there's no fires to be lit, no blades drawn, no one speaks, and adults fast. Silence rules the day except for the chimes of funerals. They meditate on the fickleness of fate and take the opportunity to remember the mortal pleasures, good and fortune should be taken for granted. On the second day, celebrations of bonfires, food, and song punctuated by chimes of funeral bells remember the dead for their better selves and their military service. It's a reminder that loss isn't the end, and another day will come that the living must carry on. During rotating seasons each year, Xa Hoi sends an open invitation to all of Tian Xia to participate in war games, testing the strength of Xa Hoi. These are military exercises on land and sea, and games also more clandestine in the capital. The point of pride to show the nation's strength with neighbors, to preserve a measure of deterrence to hopefully anybody that would show inference in showing their capabilities. Basically, hey, look, we're strong. And promoting showing its resources as an ally. So it's like, hey, we're strong. This is what we can do. And maybe you want us as an ally. And also, it means exposing any weak points in their operational capability that can be addressed next year. So if any weaknesses pop up in these war games, they can be like, oh, we can fix that next time. Let's finally finish up by talking about the general culture of Xa Hoi. And there's some monster farming. Big old weird monster fishes. Sorcerer blooded dragons are pretty big. Athletes blessed by the sovereign themselves. And magic and magicians with sorcerer blood, dragon blood, are pretty common here. And draconic traits are pretty big here. Tian Dan, Tian Tang, Nagaji, and other Xa Hoian population, sorcerers are held in high regard. Serving government officials, augurs, protectors. If you're born with a bit of dragon boon and dragon blood in you, that sorcerer stuff, that's big, you're destined for greatness. There's a strong sense of national duty also, and martial traditions. Voluntary military service is a high mark in an individual's reputation. When one are turned away, there's always a place and purpose for you within the military, and any ability or skill could be used. It's ubiquitous among Xa Hoians that societal pressure nearly undercuts the voluntary aspect. You're expected to serve. Those who don't serve are often met with disdain and criticism. Of course, dragon blood runs at the heart of this, and the appearance of selfish self-interest, betraying oaths, is basically pretty big here in the country. At the beginning of adolescence, there's a ritual that people will go through incense and smoke, heightening your consciousness with special teas. You're supposed to see the first Xa Hoian empress, Fang Tun Myogen. You swear fealty as any other citizen, and ask one question to the empress. You're to never share the question you ask or the answer you give. Some see this as blatant indoctrination at a young age, but others see that as, the long dead sovereign meets with them. Once you're recognized as a citizen, after this ritual, the young are traditionally sent to live with extended family in various parts of Xa Hoi. This branch family receives every new year for the practice of establishing strong bonds between the various tribes. You go live with some family fairlaws. Strengthen the imperial alliance. It's promoting an opportunity for children to have a deep wealth of experiences at a young age as they reach adulthood. Again, this could be leading into military service or continued travel throughout the nation. And, it's deep within the Xa Hoian roots. There's a few that kind of, again, see this as more indoctrination. But, spending 5 years in a given area before you have an itch to travel around is a big thing amongst people. They also see this as nationalism, basically making it harder to oppose the government, encouraging citizens not to settle in one place. These are big things in the entire way they look about stuff. Swimming and navigating a river is important skill. If you're unable to move in the water, you're kind of out of luck. So learning about things like the cutters that are traditionally used navigating the river is important. Communities construct cutters together and gift them to members as they reach adulthood. Many are made with such care and expertise that they last a lifetime. It's said that once the keel of the cutter cracks, a Xa Hoian should consider settling down. Maybe that's finally time for you to settle down. They're strong masters of the currents, but they can sail cutters down a lava tube that run through the clicking caverns, provide the boat and skin hold up to it. But again, going into clicking caverns is not looked at. It's a taboo because, yes, there's sinkholes that appear overflown by the haunting clockwork, and you don't want to encourage more things to appear. For the coast of the mountains, fashion is function, and it goes with the climate. Tight tunics and cuffed pants are a traditional labor attire that wick away sweat, and slung sashes that decorate fabric serve as a carrying belt for sundry tools. Long billowing robes with pocketed pants deep enough to hide a short spear maintain a buffer of cool air against the humidity in the nights. Headscarves or turbans are a great point of pride, wrapped in intricate weaves and drapes. Colors important. Because of the nocturnal lifestyle, in the iridescent light, pink pastels, greens, blues, and golds help to stand out. Jewelry isn't usually used a lot. Most accessories are tattoos or scarification. If you're a hard-skinned individual, you may opt for engravings or having entire scaled pigments to make a motif design. Ornamentation is especially prolific in the rich, achieving a dignified look in Xa Hoi fashion. Court officials in Korean military services often have long, strict traditional face tattoos. The current trend is philosophical proverbs or mythical animals enchanted to move and glow. Markings resembling dragons are frowned upon, but many will skirt this with images of dragon scales, or some subdermal horn implants, or split their tongue if it's not part of their bloodline. People form a lot of practices with all forms of art, but humidity favors some more than others. Watercolor, parchments, and textiles tend to crumble away, so embossed hide, canvas, statuary, relief engravings, and lacquer are much more important artworks because, well, not more important, but they are more popular artworks because they do tend to last a lot longer. And prominent works are in Xa Hoi collections or and stand tall in their nature. Their art adorns the various constructed temples and shrines dedicated to many of the major religious figures and important individuals: General Susun, Jin Li, Kamfusachi, Lady Namio, Nalambati, Shizuru, Dewin Gaoya. I'm butchering some of these. And there's also memorials to the various Xa Hoi sovereigns that are prolific throughout the nation. The latter monuments aren't religious. The people do view the sovereign dragons as gods, though their names are often spoken as more reverence than those of gods. The practice of honoring sovereign dragons is just as devout, but there's a distinction between them that they will quickly point out if you talk to Xa Hoi about it. With the torrential rain floods, fresh water is usually not an issue, but they do have problems with storage, and a serious drought generations ago that instigated this new boon that they've been doing to desalinate facilities along the coast and atmospheric converters to harness the humidity inland. Probably magic-based. So basically, though fresh water is usually not a problem, they don't really have good storage systems for it, so they've been finding out ways that if a drought does occur again, you can solve the problem. There you go, there's Xa Hoi. An interesting nation, a dragon nation, the only true dragon nations in a lot of ways, and one that has a very interesting culture based around dragon empires. Certainly speaking, it is one of the ancient nations of Tian Xia, having this long history that is deep within it, having survived countless empires, never been conquered, and, having these great relations with its neighbors. Will Xa Hoi evolve in the future? Well, it's hard to say. The sovereign dragons have had control for a very long time, and it doesn't mean they might not give up power to the people like the Republic that they want. But there probably would have to be a good reason, and the people would have to show that they can go on without them. Because the dragons have been watching after them from ancient times, and they do believe it is their solemn duty to watch after the people here. Sure, the laws are very cut and dry. Very serious, they're very strict, because of a need for that. They are lawful to a T, in a lot of ways. And a good-natured place. A place where, as long as you serve the kingdom, you live within it, you will be looked after. And great abilities will be seen as a great benefit for the nation. It's a fascinating nation in many ways, with its still some of its own problems, outside and in. And how it will evolve in the next 100,000 years, hard to say. But I do get the feeling that Xa Hoi will remain regardless. Thank you. Alright, if you want to check out more of my stuff, go check it out either on Twitch, where I record things live, or over on YouTube, where I put up all my tabletop stuff. On the Twitch side, I do videos like this. I do gaming, I do variety gaming, I do gaming with friends. I also do live recordings of TTRPGs. Fall of Avonswell is my current Pathfinder 2nd Edition game. Discussing Tabletop, a podcasty type thing where I talk about news of the week with some of my friends and dive into deeper discussion topics in the role-playing and other tabletop worlds. All the tabletop-related stuff goes up on YouTube, so you don't necessarily need to catch it live. If you're just on YouTube, hey, thank you for for joining me there. Do give a like, subscribe, ring the bell, the YouTube algorithm stuff, and let me know what you think about Xa Hoi. Go check out my social media for updates on schedule, what's going on, what's coming up in the next week, all those kind of things, and occasional tactics. And, of course, until the next time, we dive into Pathfinder, something else. I bid all of you out there adieu, and one. Farewell.